can't keep being in those same places. Can't keep being around those same motherfuckers, doing the same things, and thinking you're gonna be a different person in the next 4 months.
At 9:17 p.m. on September 5th, 2022, Raven K. Jackson sent her boyfriend a text message that would haunt him forever. "I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry." Just hours earlier, she had posted a glowing sunset photo with the caption, "I'm living my best life. Remember, you're in control of your happiness," to her 330,000 followers. By the next morning, the 24-year-old fitness mogul was dead, and the note she left behind would expose a truth so devastating that it would destroy everything her followers believed about the woman they worshipped. The same woman who had built an empire teaching others to love themselves had been secretly planning her own destruction for years. But here's what will shock you most. The shocking discovery that finally pushed her over the edge wasn't what anyone expected. It wasn't infidelity. It wasn't financial ruin. It wasn't even the vicious public attacks from her boyfriend's baby mama. The truth was far more insidious, far more preventable, and far more terrifying because it could happen to anyone watching this right now. What killed Raven Jackson was hiding in plain sight, documented in her own words, ignored by every professional who was supposed to help her. This isn't just another influencer tragedy. This is a murder case where the killer wore a white coat and carried a medical degree, where the weapon was dismissal, the motive was bias, and the victim was a young black woman whose pain was treated as performance. Raven's own suicide note contains confession that will make your blood boil and a revelation that exposes a system designed to fail women like her. Her rapper boyfriend, 600 Breezy, thought he knew her secrets. Her 330,000 followers thought they were watching her authentic journey. The medical professionals thought they were doing their jobs. They were all wrong, and their ignorance cost Raven her life. The note she left behind doesn't just explain why she died. It reveals how many people failed her, how many warning signs were ignored, and how a preventable medical condition became a death sentence because nobody would listen to a young black woman's pain. Stop right there. Before you hear another word of Raven's story, I need you to make a choice that reveals who you really are. You're about to witness the final moments of a woman who spent her last years helping strangers while drowning in plain sight. You're about to learn exactly how our medical system, our social media culture, and our society failed her so completely that death felt like her only option. If you're going to consume her pain, her final words, her most vulnerable moments, then you better be prepared to do something about it. Subscribe to this channel right now. Not because I asked you to, but because Raven's story needs to reach the people who are suffering in silence, just like she was. Every person who sees this video and learns to recognize these warning signs could save a life. Raven Jackson's Instagram feed was a masterclass in aspirational content that made 330,000 people believe they were watching someone who had conquered life itself.
Have kids, and that's me. I don't want to have kids. I wish they could just get here and teleport and just be here, like the stork drop them off or some shit. I don't know, but I don't want to have them out my vagina. Have y'all seen that? Have y'all seen people giving birth out their vagina? Because I follow several give birth pages on Instagram. That shit ain't lit. That shit don't look easy or fun or none of that shit. It's amazing, but do I want to do it? No, I don't care.
Every Monday, she hosted Mental Health Mondays, where she would sit in perfectly lit spaces, wearing coordinated athleisure, dispensing wisdom about self-love and emotional healing to thousands of followers who hung on her every word. Her captions read like therapy sessions mixed with motivational speeches, always ending with discount codes for her supplements or workout programs. Her Go Crazy Fitness empire showcased a woman who had transformed not just her body, but her entire existence through sheer willpower and positive thinking. The aesthetic was flawless, color-coordinated workout sets, exotic vacation destinations, designer handbags casually placed next to green smoothies, and that radiant smile that never seemed to falter. She had perfected the art of selling hope, packaging her supposed journey from struggle to success into bite-sized posts that made her followers believe they too could achieve this level of happiness. But here's the devastating irony that would later destroy everyone who loved her. While Raven was teaching thousands of strangers how to heal their minds, she was secretly documenting her own mental deterioration in private journals. The woman who preached, "Your thoughts create your reality," was battling intrusive thoughts so severe that she had been planning her death for years. Every motivational quote, every success story, every piece of advice about self-worth was coming from someone who felt completely worthless inside. In early 2020, Raven's life took what appeared to be a fairy tale turn when she began dating Antonio Valentino King, better known as Chicago rapper 600 Breezy. Their love story played out like a social media dream. The successful entrepreneur and the established artist, both young, attractive, and seemingly devoted to each other's success. Their first public appearances together generated thousands of comments from fans celebrating what looked like the perfect power couple. 600 Breezy would post lengthy tributes calling Raven his queen and crediting her with making him a better man, while she would share intimate moments of them traveling together, working out together, and supporting each other's careers. The comment sections of their posts became gathering places for followers who saw their relationship as relationship goals, proof that true love could exist in the spotlight. They appeared at industry events hand in hand, collaborated on fitness content, and seemed to genuinely enjoy each other's company both on and off camera. However, beneath the surface of their picture-perfect romance, warning signs were already emerging that Raven's closest friends would later recognize as red flags. 600 Breezy's ongoing legal troubles and his volatile relationship with his ex, Queen Key, created constant drama that Raven was forced to navigate publicly. The stress of defending their relationship against constant attacks, combined with the pressure to maintain their perfect image, was slowly eating away at Raven's mental health in ways that wouldn't become apparent until it was far too late. Raven's transformation from college student to influential entrepreneur seemed like the American dream in action, a testament to what hard work and determination could achieve in the social media age. She had started posting workout videos from her dorm room at Jacksonville State University, combining her biomedical science background with her natural charisma to create content that resonated with young women seeking both physical and emotional strength. Her early followers watched her graduate, launch her business, and build what appeared to be an empire from nothing. By 2021, Go Crazy Fitness had evolved from simple workout posts into a comprehensive lifestyle brand offering meal plans, personal coaching, and motivational retreats that sold out within hours of being announced. Raven had become a sought-after speaker at wellness conferences, commanding thousands of dollars per appearance to share her story of overcoming adversity through fitness and positive thinking. Her success seemed to validate every piece of advice she gave, every product she endorsed, every promise she made about the power of self-transformation.
So protect your peace. You have to learn how to protect your peace. That's something I dealt with for a long time because I was raised in a family where we didn't say I love you. So I didn't really know how to love people. I didn't really know what love was. I can't control other people. Like, I just tell them it's not your fault. Right? You have to protect yourself, but it's not your fault how people treat you. Period. It's stuff that they harbor inside themselves that's being projected onto you. You can't change everybody. You cannot save everybody.
Specifically, I need more details, so you're gonna have to slide in my DM like ASAP. You don't have no choice. Get there. But you say you're fighting this battle alone and nobody understands you. You are never alone. There is almost always, you know what, not even almost, there's always someone going through something similar as you, someone that can help you, someone more experienced, someone who is anointed by God that can even, pray for you. You just need to reach out because there's somebody who will understand you. There's somebody who will talk you through it, get you through it, and work with you. There's somebody who can give you advice. Just talk to somebody. Talk to me. Like I said, you don't have a choice right now. You need to get in my DM right now and talk to me. ASAP. That I am so glad that you are still here. That should just be affirmation to you that God does have something bigger in store for you. And I'm glad you grew past that phase because yikes. But self-love is going to be something that you deal with for most of your young adulthood life and maybe most of your life. Simply because you're not going to wake up every day and feel worth it. You're not going to wake up every day and love yourself. You're not going to wake up every day and feel pretty. But you're gonna realize that it's okay. It's okay to be imperfect. It's okay to have ups and downs because it's a part of life, and you will get through it, and you will grow past it. Say it with me. Also, yes, set realistic goals for yourself, because when you set short-term and long-term goals, it gives you a reason to wake up in the morning. It gives you a reason to go out and do. It gives you motivation, and motivation to motivate others. But I only have a minute, so please, if you want to talk more, DM me. I am here.
But the pressure of maintaining this success story was slowly crushing the real person behind the brand, creating an impossible standard that even Raven herself couldn't live up to. She had become trapped in a persona that required her to be perpetually happy, constantly growing, and eternally grateful for her blessings, even as her private world was falling apart. The woman who had built her career on authenticity was living the most inauthentic life imaginable, and the weight of that contradiction was becoming unbearable with each passing day. The most heartbreaking line in Raven's suicide note wasn't about her relationship or her career. It was about her body betraying her in the most fundamental way possible. "My ovaries hurt, but they keep saying nothing's wrong," she wrote, revealing a medical nightmare that had been torturing her for years while she smiled for cameras and preached about self-love. What her followers didn't know was that behind every perfectly executed workout video, every motivational speech about pushing through pain, Raven was battling polycystic ovarian syndrome, a condition that was slowly destroying her from the inside out. PCOS isn't just about irregular periods or weight gain. It's a hormonal disorder that can cause debilitating pelvic pain, severe mood swings, and crushing fatigue that makes even basic daily tasks feel impossible. For months, Raven had been visiting doctors, describing symptoms that were affecting every aspect of her life, only to be told repeatedly that her pain was normal or in her head. The medical gaslighting she experienced is tragically common for young black women, whose pain is statistically undertreated and dismissed at alarming rates compared to their white counterparts. The cruel irony was that Raven had built her entire brand around physical wellness and mental strength, but the very medical system she trusted was failing her when she needed it most. Each dismissive appointment, each prescription for basic pain relievers instead of proper treatment, each suggestion that she was being dramatic about her symptoms, chipped away at her sense of reality and self-worth. The woman who taught others to advocate for themselves was being systematically ignored by the professionals who were supposed to help her heal. What makes this even more devastating is that PCOS is entirely treatable when properly diagnosed and managed, but the chronic pain and hormonal imbalances Raven endured for years created a perfect storm for depression and suicidal ideation. Studies show that women with untreated PCOS are significantly more likely to experience severe mental health crises. Yet Raven's doctors never connected her physical symptoms to her deteriorating emotional state. The medical system didn't just fail to treat her condition, it actively contributed to the hopelessness that would eventually kill her. While Raven was privately battling medical professionals who wouldn't take her seriously, she was also being publicly humiliated by Queen Key, 600 Breezy's volatile ex-girlfriend, who claimed he was the father of her triplets born in 2019. Queen Key's social media attacks weren't just occasional outbursts. They were calculated, vicious campaigns designed to destroy Raven's reputation and relationship, often targeting her appearance, her success, and her worthiness as 600 Breezy's partner. The comment sections of Raven's posts became battlegrounds where Queen Key's supporters would flood in with hateful messages, forcing Raven to constantly defend herself and her relationship. The paternity dispute created a toxic environment where Raven was expected to remain silent and supportive, while her boyfriend's ex publicly called him a deadbeat father and suggested that Raven was just a rebound relationship. Queen Key would post screenshots of alleged conversations, make accusations about 600 Breezy's character, and even send direct messages to Raven containing disturbing claims about her boyfriend's fidelity and health status. The psychological warfare was relentless, and Raven found herself trapped between wanting to defend her relationship and maintaining the positive, drama-free image her brand required. What her followers saw was Raven taking the high road, never responding to the attacks, and continuing to post loving tributes to 600 Breezy as if nothing was happening. But privately, friends reported that she was devastated by each new accusation, spending hours analyzing screenshots and messages, questioning everything she thought she knew about her relationship. The constant stress of this public humiliation, combined with her untreated medical condition, was creating a perfect storm of anxiety and depression that she felt she couldn't share with anyone without damaging her carefully constructed image. By late 2021, the people closest to Raven began noticing subtle but concerning changes in the woman who had always been the most reliable, energetic person in their lives. She started canceling plans at the last minute, something completely out of character for someone who had built her reputation on consistency and dependability. Friends who tried to make dinner plans or schedule workout sessions found themselves repeatedly rescheduled, with Raven offering vague excuses about being overwhelmed or needing to focus on content creation. The pressure of maintaining her perfect brand while privately falling apart was becoming impossible to sustain, and the cracks were starting to show in ways that only her inner circle could see. During phone calls, friends noticed that Raven's usual enthusiasm seemed forced. Her laughter didn't quite reach her eyes during video calls, and she would sometimes go days without responding to messages from people she had previously texted multiple times daily. The woman who had built her career on being accessible and supportive to her followers was becoming increasingly isolated from the people who actually knew her. What made this isolation even more tragic was that Raven's success had created a barrier between her and the support system she desperately needed, as she felt she couldn't show vulnerability without risking her livelihood. She had become trapped in a prison of her own making, where admitting she was struggling felt like admitting failure, and failure meant letting down the hundreds of thousands of people who depended on her for inspiration. The very platform that had given her purpose and financial security was now preventing her from seeking the help that could have saved her life. The Atlanta music industry event on August 30th, 2022, would be the last time anyone saw Raven Jackson alive in public, and the footage from that night reveals a woman who was already mentally preparing for her exit. Industry insiders who spoke with her that evening described someone who seemed physically present but emotionally absent, constantly checking her phone and giving distracted responses to conversations that would normally have energized her. The woman who usually commanded attention at these events was quietly standing in corners, declining photo opportunities, and leaving conversations mid-sentence to step outside for air. What nobody knew at the time was that security cameras in the venue's parking lot captured the most telling moment of the entire evening, a heated argument between Raven and 600 Breezy that lasted nearly 20 minutes. The phrase "gave up a long time ago" suggests that the vibrant, motivational woman her followers knew had been emotionally dead for months or even years, going through the motions of living while internally preparing to die. But the line that would spark the most outrage and investigation was her medical complaint. "My ovaries hurt, but they keep saying nothing's wrong." This single sentence exposed a pattern of medical negligence that had contributed directly to her death, revealing that multiple healthcare professionals had dismissed her physical pain and failed to properly diagnose or treat her PCOS. The note made it clear that her suicide wasn't just about mental health. It was about a young black woman whose physical suffering had been systematically ignored by a medical system that didn't take her seriously. The final paragraphs of the note contained apologies to her family, friends, and followers, but also expressed a sense of relief that her pain would finally end. She wrote about feeling like a fraud for helping others while being unable to help herself, and described the exhaustion of maintaining her positive public image while privately battling thoughts of death. The note revealed that the woman who had built her career on authenticity had been living the most inauthentic life imaginable, trapped in a persona that prevented her from seeking the help she desperately needed. The circumstances surrounding Raven's death immediately raised questions that would complicate the investigation and fuel speculation about what really happened during her final hours. Chicago Police Department records show that on September 4th, 2022, at 6 p.m., a woman fell from the 42nd floor of a commercial building, with the victim being transported to Northwest Hospital, where she was pronounced dead. However, investigators have never officially confirmed that this incident involved Raven, creating a confusing timeline that doesn't align with other evidence in the case. The confusion deepens when considering Raven's own words in her suicide note, where she specifically mentioned hanging out on a bridge, suggesting she had planned to end her life by jumping from a bridge rather than a building. This discrepancy between her stated intentions and the police report has led to speculation about whether she changed her method at the last minute, whether the police report refers to a different incident entirely, or whether there are details about her death that haven't been made public. The location data from her phone shows she had visited a bridge overlooking the Chattahoochee River just days before her death, supporting the bridge reference in her note. These conflicting details matter because they raise questions about the official narrative of her death and whether all the facts have been disclosed to the public. The discrepancies have fueled conspiracy theories and speculation that something more complicated occurred during Raven's final hours, though investigators have maintained that her death was a suicide regardless of the specific method or location. The confusion has also made it more difficult for her loved ones to find closure and has kept the case in the public eye longer than it might have otherwise remained. Within hours of learning about Raven's death, 600 Breezy took to Instagram to share his grief with the world in a series of posts that revealed the depth of his devastation and love for her. "Baby, why would you do this to me? Why would you do this to us?" he wrote in his first post, accompanied by a photo of them together during happier times. His raw emotion was evident in every word as he continued. "I was coming back home, I promised you I would. You just gone leave me forever? You know how many people love you, Raven? I would have never left if this was the outcome." His second post included a video of them sharing a kiss, with a caption that read, "The best 2 years of my life. God, I need you, please, help me please. What did I do to deserve this? You took my friends and my girl." The genuine anguish in his words contradicted any suggestion that he had been anything other than a loving, supportive partner who was blindsided by her decision. His posts revealed a man who was not only grieving the loss of his girlfriend, but also questioning his own role in her death and wondering if he could have done something different to save her. Perhaps most importantly, 600 Breezy used his platform to share Raven's final text messages and encourage his followers to take mental health seriously. "Please, when your loved ones are showing signs of any mental damage or health, please take them serious. This is real," he wrote, sharing screenshots of her final communications. His decision to make their private pain public was controversial, with some critics arguing that he was exploiting her death for attention, while others praised him for using his influence to raise awareness about suicide prevention and mental health resources. The aftermath of going public with such intimate details of their relationship and her final moments created additional scrutiny for 600 Breezy, who found himself defending not only his grief, but also his decision to share her story with the world. His post sparked important conversations about mental health in the Black community and the warning signs that friends and family members should watch for, turning Raven's tragedy into a catalyst for potentially life-saving awareness among his million-plus followers. The medical negligence that contributed to Raven's death is part of a documented pattern of healthcare bias that kills Black women at alarming rates across the United States. Studies consistently show that Black women's pain is systematically underestimated and undertreated compared to their white counterparts, with medical professionals rating Black patients' pain as less severe and prescribing weaker pain management solutions. This bias is so pervasive that Black women are 3 to 4 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related complications and significantly more likely to have serious conditions misdiagnosed or dismissed entirely. Raven's struggle with COES represents a textbook case of how this bias manifests in real-world healthcare settings, where her repeated complaints about debilitating pelvic pain were met with suggestions that she was being dramatic or that her symptoms were normal. COES affects up to 20% of women of reproductive age and is directly linked to increased rates of depression, anxiety, and suicidal ideation due to the hormonal imbalances and chronic pain it causes. When left untreated, the condition creates a cascade of physical and mental health problems that can become life-threatening. Yet Raven's doctors failed to make this connection. Proper care for Raven would have included comprehensive hormone testing, pain management protocols, mental health screening, and coordination between her gynecologist and mental health professionals to address both the physical and psychological aspects of her condition. Instead, she received dismissive consultations, ineffective pain medications, and no follow-up care for the mental health symptoms that COES was exacerbating. The healthcare system didn't just fail to treat her condition. It actively contributed to her sense of hopelessness by repeatedly invalidating her experiences and making her question her own reality. The influencer economy that made Raven successful also created the conditions that made seeking help impossible, trapping her in a system where admitting struggle meant risking her livelihood and letting down hundreds of thousands of people who depended on her for inspiration. Social media algorithms are designed to reward content that generates engagement, which means positive, aspirational posts perform better than vulnerable, authentic ones about mental health struggles. This creates a perverse incentive structure where influencers, like Raven, are financially punished for showing their authentic selves and rewarded for maintaining impossible standards of perfection. The pressure to maintain this perfect image becomes even more intense for influencers whose brands are built around wellness and mental health, as any admission of personal struggle can be seen as hypocrisy or failure by their audience. Raven had built her entire career on being the person who had overcome adversity and found happiness through fitness and positive thinking, which meant that admitting she was suicidal would have destroyed the very foundation of her brand. The cruel irony is that the platform she used to help others heal became the prison that prevented her from healing herself. This dynamic is particularly toxic because it creates a feedback loop where influencers become increasingly isolated from authentic human connection, surrounded instead by parasocial relationships with followers who love an idealized version of them rather than their real selves. The constant performance of happiness and success becomes exhausting, especially when dealing with real-world problems like chronic illness, relationship issues, and mental health struggles that don't fit the narrative their audience expects. Raven was trapped in a persona that had become more real to the world than she was, and breaking free from that persona felt impossible without losing everything she had worked to build. Despite having 330,000 followers who genuinely cared about her well-being, Raven died feeling completely alone, highlighting the fundamental difference between digital connection and real human support. Her massive online following created an illusion of community and support that masked the reality of her isolation, as parasocial relationships with fans cannot provide the deep, authentic connections necessary for mental health recovery. The people who commented supportive messages on her posts didn't know the real Raven behind the brand, and she couldn't share her authentic struggles with them without risking her career and disappointing their expectations. The success that had given Raven financial security and public recognition had also created barriers between her and the people who might have been able to help her, as she felt pressure to maintain her image even with close friends and family members. Friends reported that she had become increasingly difficult to reach in her final months, canceling plans and avoiding deep conversations that might have revealed the extent of her suffering. The very platform that had connected her to hundreds of thousands of people had somehow made her feel more isolated than ever, as she couldn't be vulnerable with her audience and felt she couldn't burden her real relationships with problems that might damage her brand. Even the people who tried to help Raven were limited by her need to maintain her public image and her fear that seeking professional mental health treatment might become public knowledge and damage her reputation as a wellness expert. Her management team, close friends, and even 600 Breezy were working with incomplete information about her mental state because she had become so skilled at compartmentalizing her pain and presenting a positive facade. The tragedy is that help was available, mental health resources, medical treatment for her pros, and people who loved her and wanted to support her. But the very success that should have made accessing these resources easier instead made it feel impossible. The gap between her public success and private suffering became so wide that bridging it felt insurmountable, leading her to conclude that death was easier than admitting she needed help. Her story reveals how success and social media fame can create unique forms of isolation that traditional support systems aren't equipped to address, leaving even the most beloved public figures vulnerable to tragedies that could have been prevented with the right intervention at the right time. The most critical intervention point in Raven's story occurred during her first medical consultation about pelvic pain, when proper co-screening and diagnosis could have changed the entire trajectory of her mental health decline. Healthcare providers need mandatory training on recognizing co-symptoms and understanding how this condition disproportionately affects Black women, who are often misdiagnosed or undertreated due to systemic bias in medical settings. Early intervention with hormone therapy, pain management, and coordinated mental health support could have prevented the cascade of depression and hopelessness that ultimately led to her suicide. Medical professionals must be trained to recognize the connection between chronic pain conditions like PCOS and increased suicide risk, particularly in young women who may not openly discuss their mental health struggles. Every patient presenting with chronic pelvic pain should receive automatic mental health screening and referrals to counseling services, as the psychological impact of untreated physical conditions is well documented and preventable. Healthcare systems need protocols that ensure continuity of care between gynecologists, endocrinologists, and mental health professionals for patients with complex hormonal conditions. Healthcare advocacy organizations must prioritize addressing medical bias against Black women through systemic reforms, including bias training for medical professionals, patient advocacy programs, and accountability measures for healthcare providers who dismiss or minimize patients' reported symptoms. Raven's death could have been prevented if even one healthcare provider had taken her pain seriously and provided comprehensive treatment that addressed both her physical condition and its mental health implications. The medical community has a responsibility to ensure that no other young woman dies because her pain was dismissed as normal or dramatic. The warning signs of Raven's deteriorating mental health were visible in her digital behavior for weeks before her death, but her followers and even close friends lacked the knowledge to recognize these distress signals as emergencies requiring immediate intervention. Social media literacy programs need to teach people how to identify concerning changes in posting patterns, such as recycled content instead of original posts, withdrawal from regular commitments, and subtle shifts in language that indicate someone is preparing to harm themselves. These digital distress signals are often the only warning signs available when someone is skilled at maintaining a positive public facade. Professional mental health support specifically designed for influencers and content creators is desperately needed, as traditional therapy models don't address the unique pressures of living in the public eye and maintaining a personal brand. Influencer management companies should be required to provide mental health resources and regular check-ins for their clients, recognizing that the pressure to maintain perfect online personas creates specific psychological risks that need specialized treatment. The isolation that comes with social media fame requires targeted interventions that help creators maintain authentic relationships outside of their online presence. Social media platforms bear responsibility for creating environments that prioritize creator well-being over engagement metrics, including algorithm changes that don't penalize authentic content about mental health struggles and resources that connect struggling creators with professional help. Platform policies should include mandatory mental health resources for creators with large followings and systems for identifying and intervening when users show signs of suicidal ideation in their content or behavior patterns. Individual actions that could save lives include learning to recognize digital distress signals in people we follow online, reaching out directly to creators whose content suggests they're struggling, and supporting authentic content about mental health struggles rather than only engaging with aspirational posts. We must examine our own consumption habits and ask whether we're contributing to the pressure that makes influencers feel they can't show vulnerability without losing followers and income. Every person who follows mental health advocates has a responsibility to create space for those creators to be human and imperfect. Systemic changes needed in healthcare include mandatory bias training for medical professionals, standardized protocols for treating chronic pain conditions in marginalized communities, and integrated mental health screening in all medical settings. Insurance companies must be required to cover comprehensive treatment for conditions like PCOS that have both physical and mental health components, and healthcare systems need accountability measures for providers who consistently dismiss or undertreat patients from marginalized communities. Social media platforms must implement algorithm changes that don't punish authentic content about mental health struggles, provide better resources for creators in crisis, and take responsibility for the psychological impact of their engagement-driven business models. Community support structures need to evolve to address the unique isolation that comes with social media fame including peer support groups for influencers and mental health resources specifically designed for people whose livelihoods depend on maintaining public personas. Here's what I need you to understand. Raven's story isn't entertainment. It's a mirror reflecting the deadly consequences of a culture that values perfection over authenticity. Right now, as you're watching this, someone in your life might be posting perfect pictures while secretly planning their exit. Someone might be helping everyone else heal while drowning in their own pain. The same medical bias that killed Raven is dismissing another black woman's symptoms today. And the same social media pressure that trapped her is suffocating someone else who feels they can't show weakness without losing everything. If this story taught you something, anything, about recognizing pain behind perfection, about the warning signs hidden in plain sight, about the deadly cost of medical negligence, then prove it matters to you. Subscribe to this channel because these stories need to reach the people who need them most. The struggling influencer who thinks they're alone, the young black woman whose pain is being dismissed, the person planning their exit while maintaining their perfect online image. Your subscription isn't just a number. It's a vote that these stories deserve to be heard by people who might recognize themselves in them. And if you're sitting there thinking, I don't need to subscribe to care about mental health, or I can care without clicking a button, then explain that logic to me in the comments. I genuinely want to understand how you separate caring from action, how you justify consuming someone's most vulnerable moments while refusing to help spread awareness that could save lives. Because Raven needed people who would act, not just people who would watch and move on to the next video. And right now someone else is in her exact position, waiting to see if anyone will actually do something about what they've learned. Raven's story teaches us that authentic connection requires more than likes and comments. It demands that we create spaces where people can be imperfect, struggling, and human without losing our support or respect. Her death challenges us to examine whether we're contributing to a culture that forces people to choose between authenticity and survival, between seeking help and maintaining their livelihood. The responsibility we have to each other extends beyond our screens into real-world action, advocating for better healthcare for marginalized communities, supporting mental health resources, and refusing to participate in the perfectionism that kills. Her legacy isn't just in the people she helped during her life, but in the lives that can still be saved if we learn from her death and commit to doing better. The call to action beyond just watching this video is to become the kind of person who notices when someone's smile doesn't reach their eyes, who creates safe spaces for vulnerability, and who fights for systemic changes that prevent medical negligence and social media-induced isolation from claiming more lives like Raven's.